Hello, Palladium fans. We are back, and we're here to talk more about the history of Palladium books and riffs. And this is one of the episodes I've really been looking forward to because we've talked about how riffs came about, how all of these pieces were getting assembled and put together, and we've talked about the first two source books. And again, like we mentioned last time, all right, source book one, we've got a lot of robotics leaning into the science fiction kind of vampire kingdoms leaning into the high magic. But for me, the oeuvre that was riffs really coalesced in the World Book 2 Atlantis, because here we got mythical island returned, alien invaders, bio-wizardry. We got multiple new DB species. We got this fusion of magic and technology. It wasn't just magic and technology, but it was kind of brought together. So I'm really excited to talk about Atlantis with you, Kevin. Why go to the mystical continent of Atlantis for World Book 2, and then why give us all of this cool stuff about Atlanteans, and then essentially take all of their toys away and give them to someone else?
Why not?
I know.
Well, like I've mentioned before, I like to give people something they think they know, and then kind of turn it on its head and go, well, how about this? Because no one would have thought of this. We always see Atlantis, and it's this beautiful, grand place, usually a place of magic and learning and knowledge and all that, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But in Rift's Earth, the situation is set up so that Atlantis vanished. At least, whenever it disappeared, 15,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. I mean, there's just legends of it. No one's even sure it ever existed. Well, it did. And when magic energy dissipated, the island of Atlantis went with it. And as we learn later in the Lemurian source book, because Lemurians aren't too happy with Atlanteans.
Yeah.
They blamed Atlanteans for causing this disaster. Exactly how much at fault they are is a matter of some conjecture, but
but the Atlantean clans believe that they're culpable to some degree, right? They spread out over Earth and tried to teach people, in the aftermath, and most of them have become these noble, protectors to try and shepherd us humans throughout the Megaverse.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, Atlantis has been gone all this time, and suddenly it comes back, and why not put Atlantis in the hands of one of their most hated, in the hands of the Atlanteans' most hated enemy, the Splugorth, which are these alien intelligences that invade and conquer worlds, and they're just not nice people or beings.
No, not at all.
And I thought it'd be really cool to, yes, it is this mystical and unique, magnificent, grand place, except it's in the hand of monsters, and they control it completely. And it's just this fun way to introduce, what if Cthulhu-like creatures controlled a chunk of Earth? What would that place be like? Well, it's all in here.
Right, and it's sort of fulfilled the implicit promise that's on the cover of the original Rifts book. Like, hey, here's this Splugorth slaver, here are these blind warrior women. They're out there. But not yet. You've got to, your imagination just kind of has to keep percolating in the background until we really got to see them in action.
Yeah, I mean, so who do they serve? I mean, now and it's just, I wanted to make Atlantis this beautiful, enchanted place that was also supremely dangerous, especially for humans and most DBs.
I would say in my decades-long career as a Rifts game master, I used a lot of things from the Atlantean source books, and never once did I have a group want to go. Like anytime they had the opportunity to go to Atlantis, they waved off. Like they were like, no, we'll use Atlantean tech, we'll fight Atlantean minions, but off the island. We're not going to the island. I was like, all right, but no, okay, all right.
You
So
and me both, brother. I mean, yeah. Actually, I take that back. I think I had one adventure where they went to the Splin Dimensional Market very briefly. They a couple of them popped in, got what they needed, and popped out miraculously with avoiding any intrigue. I mean, I threw it at them, but they artfully dodged it and said, "We're out of here, man."
Right. That's why in on the XP table you have a reward for avoiding avoiding things like that. But this is one of those books that you said this was like lightning in a bottle. This was a book that you wrote very quickly, like on the same timeline as when we were talking about Robotech, where you were like, I turned it around in essentially a month, start to finish.
Well, I mean, it had been percolating in the back of my head for months and months, and I knew I wanted to fulfill that promise of parts of Rift's Earth are more alien and bizarre than an alien planet. So I kind of knew what I wanted to go with Atlantis, and it had been boiling and boiling and boiling, and so yeah, when I finally sat down, because it was funny, because I would tell Kevin Long little bits and pieces of it, because he was one of my big, cohorts in crime and
oh yeah,
and he loved riffs, and he was like, "So what do you have in mind? Are you going to have this? Are you going to have that?" And I'm like, "Yes, but like what?" And I would tell him a little bit, and he's like, I can't imagine it," because I would give him sort of that overview of what it's going to be, and he's like, I can't imagine it. And I sat down and I just banged it out, and he's like, "Oh, wow.
Now I can imagine it."
Yep.
So you wanted to bring the old ones, or the great old ones, the Cthulian kind of entities. You had touched on them before in the old ones, and then you brought them into Rifts a little bit with the vampire intelligences, but really the Splugorth have like that idea refined again even further, right? They're this megaversal, multidimensional. They always reminded me, the way you wrote them, of the way the Hutts were portrayed in Star Wars. We're all Splugorth, but this is my Splugorth kingdom, and you stay over in your Splugorth kingdom, and nobody wants to piss them off, because nobody wants all of these disparate kind of evil empires to actually unify against something.
Correct. Absolutely. And that's also why, like, a bunch of people have asked me, well, why haven't the Splugorth just taken over Rift's Earth if they're so powerful? And it's like, well, because that would just create a war between a dozen or 24 different godlike beings, and they're smart enough to try to avoid that. And so Splugorth got there first, and he claimed his little part of the land. He's got his fingers or tentacles into a few other places on Rift's Earth, but he kind of does that quietly, and so far nobody's messed with him.
Well, and he's got the cult of Dragonrite, which is another Palladium fantasy. That was always one of the things that I love, going through the books and finding these little Easter eggs of, well, I mean, the big one being Victor Laszlo from Beyond the Supernatural stumbling into a rift and ending up in Rift's Earth for a time, which, but right, Cult of the Dragonrite, huge part of the history of Palladium fantasy and major part of Atlantis, right? He's got all of these dragons. And then I also personally like to believe that Splugorth is just enough of an evil bastard to let slip that strange rift that they have on Atlantis that can permanently alter anybody's alignment, and just is like, you mess with me, you're going in that room, and just just enough of an evil bastard to use that as a leverage against his political enemies throughout the megaversal dimensions.
Of course.
Well, let's shift away from let's not shift away yet. So you built, essentially, to use another Star Wars-ism, you took Mos Eisley, the most wretched hive of scum and villainy, and made it an entire island. I mean, we have
island continent.
Yeah. So, like, what's your favorite part of the Splugorth's Atlantis?
That's. I was gonna say that's a little tough because there's cool places on the continent. Like, I like the idea that there's a whole refuge for dragons where they can live quietly and peacefully. Well, as quietly and peacefully as evil dragons get.
Right.
But it's got to be the splin dimensional market, where it's rumored you can acquire anything your heart's desires if you're willing to pay the price.
So the idea that a powerful entity would have, gladiators and minions and right, an evil entity would have slaves is right. They really feel kind of Roman-esque in that fashion. And I loved the idea, and I've played many a character whose origin story was, I was brought up in the gladiator slave pits on Splugorth and something broke me out. Because the idea of something this powerful and this evil, who's really one of their primary exports to the rest of the dimension, are humans that they've caught and mutated and experimented on to make not even necessarily super soldiers. It's not the same way as what we see in kind of South America with some of the alien races that are, the Megaversal Legion, who are just mass producing humans, or were mass producing human soldiers. This creature's one of a kind, because we didn't know what all of these things would do in a human body when we stuffed them all in. But this one survived, and now it's an MDC creature. The gladiator arena always struck me as sort of Splugorth's showroom, in a way where he's like, hey, this is a new one, and this one will be up for auction at the end of the fight. And right, they're not even evil on a scale that humans can understand, because they're just completely amoral. They're just completely consumed by their own, power. And yeah, I love it. So
I'm glad you get it. I mean, because that's exactly right. I mean, you really do get Atlantis, and it's basically a demonic god that's running this place. I mean, what do you think he's going to do? Most living beings are, viewed as playthings, especially humans. And it's like, yeah, of course you're going to experiment. It's like you saying, I feel bad I took this lab rat and did whatever to it. It's like that's their attitude. It's like, it's just a lab rat.
Yeah, it's like it's an organic Lego. I can take it apart and put it back together however I want. I wouldn't feel bad stepping on a Lego and breaking it. I wouldn't feel bad if the bio-wizardry parasites that I put in this thing were incompatible and ripped them apart.
Right. Why would you?
So let's go over to bio-wizardry, because again, that scream. I mean, obviously, if you've never read Atlantis, dear viewer, just pause this video, go buy Atlantis, and then come back and you'll understand my excitement, because we get the Katani, we get, just multiple servitor races, multiple deities, some of them that look fair and are foul, some that look foul and actually are like the gentlest creature in the world, and you feel bad that the Splugorth got a hand on them, but also the sense of time that you managed to put in Atlantis. Some of these servitor races have been in Splugorth's service for tens of thousands of years, right? They were part of the Splugorth, Splugorth's empire long before Atlantis disappeared, even for the first time, let alone came back. And so there's just this massive sense of scale of time and space that, again, I feel kind of, for me at least, blew the walls off of what was possible in Rift's Earth. But then we got bio-wizardry. And so, Kevin, I mean, I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but it is this, it's like techno-wizardry, only grosser, because it's these parasites that have been magically manipulated. But we get, the Eyes of Allure, we get the stabs, we get the slave barges, we get all of the just horrifically disgusting Geiger-esque parasites that can be attached into a human body. We get the bioborgs. This was the fusion that you kind of promised in the first book of, hey, it's not just magic and technology coexisting or even overlapping, but we're going to shove so much magic and technology into one creature that they're going to explode. Where did the ideas for bio-wizardry and the bioborgs, and again, like, I still like the parasite that turns a human SDC creature into an MDC creature, but is basically like a crab with a mouth with a tongue that kind of comes out, and you have to feed it into, in your chest. Where did all of this come from?
My overactive imagination.
Perfect. I'll take it.
I wanted to make it something unique and kind of gross and disgusting, although not too gross and disgusting. It was just, a really fun way to go. As I mentioned before, one of the themes of Rifts is human augmentation.
Yeah.
And so this was just another form of augmentation. And I just always liked the idea of parasites and symbiotes that did something that was cool. And again, strangely enough, it happened in the Defilers, where one of my guys, Tom Bartold, who, by the way, in the playtest for Rifts, played a baby hatchling that was like 3 hours old, 6 hours old.
The dragon,
so it didn't know its own strength, and so it's like, well, I don't want to hurt anyone, so I'm not going to use any weapons. And some bad guy attacks her, and she slaps him, but fails to pull her punch and rolled a natural 20. And the guy's head just goes flying off his shoulders. And Tom and the whole group were like, oh! And of course, the bad guys are funny. They're like, oh my God, what is she? Because
she just murdered that guy.
It was, it was metamorphed into a beautiful woman. And, so of course they're like, kill it. And it was wild. But anyways, Tom was playing a monk in Palladium Fantasy. And somewhere along the way, he had acquired a symbiotic organism that had attached itself to his neck. And we were still playing sort of a blend between Dungeons and Dragons and Palladium Fantasy. And so there was a Throne of the Gods. I think that was a D&D thing, or maybe I took some concept from D&D and called it that. Anyways, he sits in his throne. It's kind of a wish machine. And the monk, who was an alcoholic and had been drinking anyways, was like, I want the powers of the gods. And this throne was able to do that, although it really kind of maxed it out. And his body is going through all this trauma. And, we're rolling for, and he knew his symbiote gave him extra, because it was now a physical part of him, gave him extra hit points. He knew that from a previous death-defying incident. And he survived with like the classic 1 hit point left. And he was so excited about it, was so happy he had the symbiote. And it had saved his life. And even as a god, he still had it. And he was just it was more powerful like he was. And that, I think, helped kind of solidify my idea of how to use symbiotes. The germ of the idea came, I'm sure, from I'm a bug guy, so there's all kinds of insect parasites.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
We're all aware of parasites that live in bodies and slowly eat their host body, that kind of thing. But another one that I'm sure influenced me, I believe it was a not Twilight Zone, but a Night Gallery episode by Rod Serling with the earwig or earwick, where this.
Oh yeah.
It's sort of like Wrath of Khan, I'm sure.
I was just thinking Wrath of Khan. Yeah, that's exactly where my brain went.
This thing burrows into his ear, and it's like, and he's being driven mad, and you can feel it eating through his brain. And for a minute, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so lucky! It actually went in one ear and out the other." Until they realized it laid eggs in his brain, and there were now a whole bunch of little baby ones devouring him from the inside out. And I think some of that just kind of, this will be cool.
Oh yeah, there was an Outer Limits episode where humanity was fighting against an alien race that could turn you into itself, which reminded me a lot of Stephen Donaldson's Gap Cycle, because the amnion, that's what was so terrifying, is they had these bioweapons that would turn you into an amnion and then you were gone. And
right.
That episode just sticks in my head when they get to the end and the guy's like, "Don't worry, we've got this big plan and you're going to be safe," because the woman keeps coming back and she's, more and more changed. And she reveals that they're not changing her, they're changing her back. And that just, crushes this guy's spirit because he's just revealed humanity's big plan. And I'm like, that feels very Splugorthy to me.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I loved Outer Limits and Twilight Zone and all those type of shows. So I'm sure
all of that's percolating around in there.
Yeah, just floating around going, hey, what if you extrapolated on this?
You also gave us Atlanteans. Like, Atlantis is not just a feel bad book or a feel good book for the DM. It's got some great character options. We get to meet the Atlanteans, these kind of noble nomads that were among Earth's original inhabitants. They're sort of our Golden Age predecessors, very, very Plato, very, Greek, right? The age of gold, and the age of silver, and then the age of iron, the different types of men kind of moving through here. But I mean, I fell in love with tattoo magic. And then one of my co-DMs in our group, again, like I said, had a love of geology. And so he loved, the Stone Mage, and being able to tell, hey, no, sorry, if you're in this region of the U.S., these are the kind of gems that are readily available. And so can you expand on hey, where does tattoo magic come from? Obviously the stone, I can see the connection between the Stone Mage and the pyramids and kind of the Chariot of the Gods thing that we've talked about. But you gave us a lot of cool options that, again, completely unique from anything else at the time or since, in the terms of character options in Rift's Atlantis.
Well, I'm a world builder at heart, I think. I always like that kind of world building aspect. I love history. I love the fantastic. I love superhumans. I try to weave all that into a lot of the stuff I do, especially with riffs. And I wanted to keep that, because Atlantis, I think in most people's mind, it was this noble, high-achieving, evolved, enlightened society before something horrible happened and destroyed them. Whether it was by their own hand or accident or, some horrible natural disaster. It doesn't matter. We all think of them as being these enlightened people. And so I like that idea. And so I wanted to keep the idea of the true Atlantean. And then I'm always looking for wow factor and things that will make people go, oh my gosh, what is this? I want to play this. I want to read more about this. Whether it's as an NPC or as a player character. And that was the true Atlanteans and the tattoos. And I suspect the tattoos were somewhat inspired by the Ray Bradbury. What the hell book was that? With the tattooed man?
Yeah, no, the tattooed man. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was.
I'm glad, because that was at the forefront of my young mind when I was reading it, because I devoured Ray Bradbury.
I mean, I love him, but I highly recommend people go out and read more Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451, and all those.
So, you know what my favorite story about Fahrenheit 451 is? I apologize for.
No, go ahead.
So when it came out, it was put on a ban list because it's considered, too violent, too adult themes. They talked about different things, and it's sort of a scathing indictment of how we treat books and how people in power use. I mean, it's very Fahrenheit 451 and Joseph II's use of literacy and illiteracy is. There's a lot of parallels there. And apparently this was told to me in high school. So I've never confirmed this. I've never wanted to confirm this because it lives in my head as an apocryphal story. Apparently Ray Bradbury wrote a letter in response to being put on the ban list in Illinois. And all it said was, right, "Dear sir or madam, there's more than one way to burn a book. Sincerely, Ray Bradbury." And they took it off the ban list. Because it was it was just, there's more than one way to burn a book. Ugh. And I love that story. It just feels very Bradbury-esque, if you will, to me.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah. But yeah, it's a cool story for sure.
All right, sorry. So tattoos and then stone mages.
Well, I mean, it's with the tattoos. I'm always looking for something new and different that evokes the imagination. And I think I'm just, I'm very visual. So I like the idea that I could, if I had magic tattoos, I could touch my shoulder and make that dragon or that tiger or that sword and shield magically appear so that I could command them or wield them. I just thought that was fun. I was so disappointed because I thought I had truly come up with something original that no one had ever done, and I found out that DC Comics had some character that had magic tattoos.
Oh.
And I was so disappointed. I wasn't familiar with it at the time. But again, it's another example of parallel development.
Yeah, exactly. Parallel development.
Although, I mean, I think they developed it 5 or 10 years before I did. It was some obscure character in some adventure someplace. I don't even know.
I'm very familiar with DC, and that does not ring a bell to me.
Yeah. So, hey, it is what it is. And then, the stone mages, come on.
Yeah.
We got standing stones throughout rifts. It's built on kind of the whole earth magic ley lines. Yeah. Historically, where nexus points are, that's where they build like Stonehenge and other standing stones or
pyramids,
yep. or monoliths. And so it was like, well, who the heck builds these and who the heck runs them, knows how to operate them to open up dimensional portals. And I thought, well, why would you have pyramids all over the place? Because a lot of people think of pyramids just Egypt, but they cover the planet. In fact, they're most numerous in Central and South America.
Yeah.
People aren't aware of that. In fact, we had similar Incan Mayan style pyramids along the Mississippi River, but those were all torn apart and used as like foundations for buildings when settlers came from Europe. So we have like even no real solid history of a lot of those. I mean, we know some of them were there, and we have an idea of how big some were. But I mean, as a general public, we don't know that. And when I found that out as an adult, I'm like, why don't we know this? This is fantastic. I want to know that there were pyramids here in the United States and elsewhere. Well, I mean, they're everywhere. They're in Asia. They're in China. Yeah.
They're along Mesopotamian river valleys, right? That's the ziggurats. That's
right.
What got built.
So I just, and I had, as we discussed in the past, I was a big Egyptian mythology god guy, and so it was another way to kind of draw in those elements without being very overt about it.
Yeah.
And just building on the whole concept of, pyramids and crystals and ley lines, they're the foundation behind magic as we know it. Well, as we know it in the fictional game.
Right, yeah. Well, I'm just saying, then about 5 years later, my Rifts group and we go to see this movie. And we're all super excited because it's exactly how we had imagined it. Because Stargate comes out in 97 with the guy who's able to control the pyramid, and it turns out the pyramid, I mean, it's very Chariot of the Gods, right? Which I came to through reading a lot about Jack Kirby's life and how much he liked that book. But, right, I mean, the what became the Goa'uld in the Stargate TV show have a very kind of Atlantean feel to them, a la Rift's Earth. So like we were, I mean, that became the mental image for a lot of our inside, Stone Mage pyramid technology kind of things. But you didn't give us entirely like wholly good Atlanteans. And one of the things that always has intrigued me is the Sunaj assassins and the clan that's being led by this, everyone thinks of the Atlanteans as the good guys, and yet we have this one clan of Atlanteans that is secretly working for, being manipulated by, willingly by the Splugorth, and we have this evil clan that is willing to sacrifice its own people to keep the heat off of its back. And this was actually a big part of one of my campaigns growing up. Why? I mean, again, I know you love saying here's the familiar, but then you just sort of like toss in this grenade in the middle of the book, and it's only a couple of pages in the center of the Atlantis book, but it's got so much depth of character, and it's really compelling that even the Atlanteans aren't this monolithic structure. And then you use the Roman god Janus and spelled his name backwards, which is just spectacularly good Easter egging, for a young Latin guy, mythology guy. So why did you decide to like put in these evil Atlanteans as a both a red herring and a foe?
Because it offers a ton of adventure opportunities.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff. And it goes back to human beings' capacity for good and evil. So most true Atlanteans are heroic and good and well-intentioned, but there's always that flip side, that other side of the coin, and that's the Sunaj.
Well, and you do this multiple times throughout the Rifts line. You and the authors you've gathered around you, right? We see the once shining, unbreakable order of the Cyberknights when confronted with war, when going against, like, I think that's the big tragedy of the Cyberknights for me, is that Lord Coke was like, do not get involved in this war. I'm wise enough to know what's going on, but you won't hear me. Just don't do it. And we have fallen Cyberknights. And on the flip side, you gave us the Mystic Knights in Federation of Magic.
Yep.
And then you hint at this Order of the White Rose. And then in Madhaven, we get the Order of the White Rose. These people who are like evil. The human soul can't survive this much evil. But also that like the beauty of the White Rose kind of is what redeemed these, formerly irredeemable. So you do a great job of leaning into that theme that nothing is ever as monolithic or as homogenous as it seems. Humans, being humans, are going to be individuals, and some are going to rise to the occasion. right? We have stories of coalition squads letting DBs go because it's one of my favorite phrases. It's hard to hate up close. When we hate things, we hate monolithic ideas from afar, but when we actually like meet someone face to face, it's very hard to maintain that hate kind of, in close quarters. So we have coalition soldiers who are helping DB families escape because, well, when we actually spend some time with them, or, very much, I forget it's a very common story among war history, right? Where enemy units are stuck behind lines or separated, and they have to rely on each other to get back. And that very much that, all right, but when we get back, or when we've dealt with this threat, then I'm coming for you. And after several days, weeks, or months, you have this honored enemy sort of thing. And I love that about Rifts. You haven't lost that thread through how many odd supplements?
Yeah, I think we're up to around 90 something. Yeah.
All right. Well, we always have to take some part of the episode and talk about the art in the book. So we have this beautiful Keith Parkinson cover that is slightly sinister, very intriguing. Is there a story that goes behind, either the cover or the interior art? I know Newton and Kevin Long did a lot of the art, as well as you contributed some pieces to the book.
Well, first of all, Keith just nailed it. And I wanted something that looked, regal and beautiful, yet monstrous at the same time, monstrous and menacing. And he delivered, because it's a very kind of understated cover. Because, you've got this beautiful Maxfield Parrish-ish kind of background, and, these big, beautiful marble pillars.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got not just that creature, which is like, what the hell is that? It's something alien and God knows. But even the ley line walker is menacing, because that poor woman is clearly a slave, or captive, and what's going on there. And I love having the little dragon-like,
just kind of laying about
dog or kitty cat. It's beautiful. And by the way, I think the blonde is his wife, Keith Parkinson's wife, Mary Parkinson. So that's cool. And then on page, so Newton Newell was a huge anime guy, and he did a lot of art for this. I thought he was really perfect for this book, because even his tech stuff had sort of a fantasy,
very organic kind
magical
of feel to
alien, organic kind of feel to it. And he did a lot of the art, and a lot of it's fabulous, especially some of those weapons like the Sword of Atlantis and some of the other things. They just look awesome. And but on page 20, there's this great double page spread. And if you look closely in the background, you'll realize SDF3 or SDF1.
That's awesome.
And you don't really notice it because there's all these other pillory spiked things. But if you look close, you're like, oh my gosh, is that the SDF1? Yes.
You just brought up another thing that, again, one of the things I loved. All right, so I'm a huge Elric fan. Weirdly came to Elric through Blue Oyster Cult. But you brought in rune weapons in Palladium Fantasy, and Rifts Atlantis brought the rune weapons, which I felt was perfect, right? Soul-stealing magical weapons, they're for sale at the dimensional market.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of, World Book 2 is not the only time you've visited Atlantis or the Atlanteans. We got two other books, right? We had the Splin Dimensional Market, which is just a smorgasbord of new tattoos and new creatures and new reasons
and symbiotes
not to go to Atlantis.
And then Bio-wizard Bioborg.
Yeah.
Which is, I think Ben Grimm or the Hulk, only more twisted.
Yeah, weirder.
Weirder. Yeah.
Um,
and then Secrets of Atlanteans by Carl Gliba. Oh my gosh. It's just, I love Carl. Carl is just an amazing writer. It's funny, his writing, actual writing, the words, I think he struggles with a little bit with structure and writing. It's something he had to really work at. I had to go through most of his books and tweak them pretty substantially and rearrange things so they were more logical and whatever. But oh my God, his ideas. And it's funny because we have a saying here at Palladium, and I think we talked about it in one episode, where great ideas are a dime a dozen. And while that may sound jaded or terrible, I mean, the thing is, you, me, everyone will come up with a great idea from time to time. I need someone who can execute. And while Carl struggles with that a little bit, his ideas are so amazing and so intuitive and fit the world so well because he knows it so well. He game masters it all the time.
Yeah.
It's just magnificent. And, Carl's like me. There's a great freaking idea on every other page, if not every page.
I need to pick that one up. That's one of the few source books I have not read. And I know with as much as I love Atlantis, I feel like I'm slacking on this.
It's a great book. You'll love it. It's got more about the Sinage. It actually has the layout and functions of the stone pyramids.
Heading to palladiumbooks.com after this to play. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. We're going to head to next time. I think we're going to try and do a couple of books at the same time. We're going to kind of hit the European North Africa region, talk about England and Triax and the NGR and the Africa source book. And then we're going to step away from kind of a chronological walk and explore more of the Megaverse.
Sounds good to me.